Commander, we have the Orc base in sights and we are loading our cannons for the first strike. Please give us the coordinates we need to make sure that our strikes hit. Wait a minute. Corporal, what is that? What are you listening to? Give me that. Oh, yes, my favorite podcast, Chaos Divided with Nurgle, Schnurgle, and Blushing Noise Rain. Give me one of those headsets. Yeah, this is a good one. You know what, we're doing great, we're just gonna start firing. Fire in the hole!
Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of Wholesome Hammer. If you're a fan of what we do, we hope you'll subscribe and follow us along. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided. This week, we're culminating the opening trilogy to the Horus Heresy with our opening BloodGod's book club. And getting into Galaxy in Flames by Ben Coulter. And we went back, we checked, we've never used this before. And this was the perfect time. We've wanted to in the past, but we held back.
It's perfect for this episode. It's beautiful.
Order the guns to fire, said Horus, his voice cold. Let the galaxy burn.
Oh, and so it begins.
This is before we got started. I said this is the bolter porn book of this opening trilogy. Yep. This is the
massive, horrific battle that basically the spark that starts the Civil War.
As JT McDowell from Play On might say, it's a slobber knocker of a fight.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. This book is I actually started to read it again this morning to refresh myself, and right off the bat, it was getting really, really juicy.
It's the first book. You know, we see the cracks. We see, Horus there's doubt, there's concern. The second book,
crack here and there.
The cracks get absolutely rended open, and chaos just seeps into Horus. Book 3 really sets this isn't a fall, this is a descent.
Yeah, it's happened. I love it because as the reader, we already know that something is going to happen, but the characters that we're reading about don't know. And you're having to read through this and be like, when is it going to happen? What's going to happen? Is it going to be now? Is this guy going to die? Wait, when is it? There's a constant sense of suspense throughout the first start of the book to when the spark is going to hit and when they're all going to start launching their plan, because from the previous book we already do know that Horus did get together with his brothers and did say, we will set a trap on Istvan.
Yes, and we really, one thing I will say this book does a really good job of is really pushing the envelope and making you realize how brutal this is going to be. If you're coming at it from not a ton of knowledge of 40k, the Horus Heresy is kind of this unknown, what's going on with it, and this third book really punches you in the gut as far as the degree of violence gets exponentially pushed up, and it really does a very good job of adding a lot of heft to these characters that you've gotten to know over the last few books.
I agree.
So we start off with kind of an odd situation where, the Istvan 3 needs to be brought under compliance, because there is actually people living on Istvan 3.
Yes, at the moment there is still a civilization that's living on Istvan that originally was conquered and brought to compliance by the Legion. I can't remember the number, but it was Korax's Legion, the Raven Guard. Nevermore. And at the beginning of the book, we have Horus with his council surrounding one of his astropaths, his main one, Ingmei Singh, and he's ordering her to send out messages to all of his brothers to give them instructions on what he wants to do. And she can feel, though she is blind as a an astropath, who are the ones who guide them through the Immaterium so they can transport their ships across space and time so quickly. She can't see, but she can feel the threatening presence of Horus, the Monovol, and the Terminators all in this room, and it just like emanates from them like waves of the ocean hitting you at the beach. She can feel it coming from all of them, and she even states to Horus, as he notices that there's something wrong, and he addresses it with her, and she says it's nothing wrong, it's just I can feel the nature of these messages you wish me to send, and they are deeply concerning. He does give her a little bit of a rebuke for it, but she reassures him and says, my will is to serve the War Master and the War Master alone, so it's really none of my business what I'm sending, just that I send it. And he seemed pretty happy about that, but it was remarked that his tone and the way he treated others had changed. Usually the general jovial Horus, or where his anger wouldn't peak so quickly, now it was happening a lot of the time, and this is where, like you said, those cracks are now torn open, and he's kind of pretty much on the cusp of full-blown showing his true colors now of what he's really doing.
Yeah, and he's really just trying to hold it in for the next like few days is all he needs, because
Yes,
this is really about to get blown open. And going back, I kind of hadn't realized how kind of specific all of the legions that are at Isstvan 3 are.
very specific in general.
It's sort of your most ready to tip into chaos legions. 100%.
Yep.
It's
Emperor's
the Death
Children,
Guard, Emperor's
Death Guard,
Children,
World Eaters, and
Sons of Horus.
Yep, the Sons of Horus were there. I don't think the Word Bearers weren't there. They were off doing other things.
Yeah, but it's really
So those four.
Your chaosiest legions that are also easy to tempt into rebellion.
Yes.
Which, at the time, I don't think I really understood the kind of foreshadowing there, but there's there's a lot of emphasis being put on kind of a very minor planet. So there is some like signs that something isn't quite making a ton of sense.
Well, even the fact that when Loken enters the room, and they're in the council room talking about this planet, Isstvan, and the whole demeanor of everyone has changed completely. Like, he can feel his own brothers from the Monovol shooting daggers through him as he walks across the room. And he can tell that everything has changed, and he does make note that like there's a lot of emphasis on this minor planet. And Horus you can tell by reading it, Horus is pretty focused on Isstvan for whatever reason. Extremely focused about it. Them showing the original recordings that they had gotten from the planet. I think it was Malagar shows them, and it's a woman on a projector talking about something happening. The population is starting to turn against them. They speak of these things called the War Singers, that they were a legend, but they ended up not being a legend. And at one point, she looks away from the screen and goes, "Oh my God!" And you see a bunch of flashing light, and there's this weird tentacle-like creature that they say is like almost shadowed up against the wall behind the screen. So he emphasizes it, and then they show them this video of like some really crazy stuff happening on the planet, and then it cuts.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, talking about 4 legions being in their entirety in one location at the same time.
That's huge.
It's also just like logistically confounding. Like, that's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of supply lines to stretch. Like, really, like Horus has put a lot of effort into making this even happen.
Yes, quite a bit actually.
And like there's something going down. Like he's arrayed a lot to bring everyone together, because even one legion being in the same spot at the same time was also rather rare, unless you were one of the smaller ones. Like the White Scars were often all as one. The Night Lords were usually fairly well, actually, the way they
together
fought,
as one.
but they were at least nearby. But the Sons of Horus were a huge legion. So, and the Death Guard were also, known for being kind of spread out.
And this was a time when the legions were well over 10,000. Like some of the legions ranked in 15, 30, 20,000 members in the legions.
Well, and I think the Sons of Horus were tens of thousands. They weren't the biggest ones, but they were one of the larger ones because they'd had Horus for so long.
Exactly.
They'd had time to grow their ranks.
The largest one would have been Gilliman, which was why later on he makes such an emphasis that we have to deal with Gilliman as soon as possible. He's probably the only one that could cause us some real hard problems.
Well, and for whatever reason, the Word Bearers are the second largest legion. Because there's a Primarch or two missing, and we don't talk about that.
Yep.
But yeah, we're getting underway, and even from the very beginning, like who is chosen to kind of be the spear tip is already somewhat.
That was the strange part. Yes, like even before that, there's a part in the book where it flashes to another part of the galaxy, and it's the Emperor's Children. They're having a bit of a conflict on a ship with orcs. Now they're going through slaying the orcs one after another. Sol Tarvitz is there, Lucius is there, and he's having a bit of an inner monologue about his thoughts and feelings of the Legion, especially Lord Eidolon, and how he doesn't really mark up to the standard of what an Emperor's Children should be, especially after all the things that have happened so far. But also Fulgrim's there. Fulgrim comes out after the battle is done, praising his warriors for their excellent work, and now they're to move on to another grand endeavor and do all these things in another part of the galaxy. And they're all really excited, but then he announces, but not all of you will be going. And there's a little bit of shock and feeling, and he announces that many of you will be going to join the expedition of the 16th Fleet on Istvan to help the War Master with a particular issue. So right there, it's kind of strange that certain people are being chosen to go in one direction where others are being sent in another, because like you said, a lot of the legions are not that big. The Emperor's Children was one of the legions that wasn't the largest after they had gone through their first really bad spell of that disease they went through, and then Fulgrim helped them rebuild themselves. Though they're rebuilding, I don't see them as being a massive legion in comparison to some of the others, and it's also the individuals that are picked to go too.
Well, I mean, when you see some of the other legions, like Lucius, as an example, is the captain of the 13th Company. So a company in kind of the Horus Heresy era is about 1,000 legionaries, and he was considered a very minor captain, so he would have been near the bottom of the the force
bottom of the
totem
chart. Pole, yeah.
So your 13th company is near the bottom, which means there is not a lot of companies past that point. So if the Emperor's Children were 15,000 at this point, I'd be somewhat surprised. Maybe 20 on the absolute top end, but yeah, they were very small. Because I mean, you have Ultramarines have 100 and some companies at this point.
Yeah, captain of the 132nd Company. It's like, huh? You do some math on that, and you're like, okay, hold on, 1,000. It's just 137 times 1,000. You guys are not following the chapter parameters.
Well, this is what the chapters came out of, basically what a Space Marine company was. But yeah, so the Emperor's Children are not very big. The World Eaters aren't particularly numerous. I don't think so much because they didn't recruit heavily. They tended to experience losses.
Yep, especially when they incorporated the Butcher's Nails, the fighting pits on their ships started to become a lot more bloody. And what was the word that Karn used? Sanguis extremis, which in the terms of, I think it's Latin, is to the death.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'd be a lot of blood is kind of how that translates.
Extreme blood flow.
Yeah.
Basically to the death.
Yeah.
I really like Latin.
Well, there's a lot of maybe real and a lot of fake Latin in Warhammer, so
Actually, it turns out it's all pretty accurate. It looks like what they did was there's High Gothic and Low Gothic. Low Gothic is Common or English, and High Gothic is Latin, where like Ape Imperata does mean for the Emperor.
Yeah, no, it's there's not usually a lot of the grammar that follows Latin. It works well in small quotes. Whenever they
Not
get into
like-
bigger, yeah.
It's
Not
a
every
weird-
Black Library author actually speaks or writes Latin, so. Anyways, so yeah, no, we're yeah, they've assembled, and from the very beginning, there's kind of the hairs on the back of your neck. You know, Space Marines don't feel fear, but they do sense danger.
Yeah.
So they I believe the spear tip goes to the planet and like very quickly crushes what little rebellion there is.
Well, also even before the spear tip, there's other accounts in the book where there's little moments that are seeding even more doubt into those, just little phrases that are said. Gavio Loken has a conversation with Karn, who is now on the Vengeful Spirit in the trophy room of Horus Lupercal. And he's there with Sol Tarvin. No, sorry, not Tolov. It's Tarek Trogatin. And they have a very brief conversation. But the one thing that stands out about it after they go talking about the trophies and the Primarchs and their thoughts and feelings about trophy taking, Karn does say one thing in regard to Loken mentioning that the galaxy is changing and so is the Crusade. And Karn goes, yes, it is changing. For the better, I believe. And that right there rings in Loken a little bit. He even says, he kind of narrows his stare at him. He's like, indeed. Why would he say that? And before he can even address it, the doors open and they go into the council room and they're told about Istvan, which is, I believe, a lot of them were shown that recording in Istvan to get them focused on Istvan and not focused on what was going on behind the scenes, because it's very clear that some people have flapping mouths that shouldn't be talking. Karn.
It's that Korn-esque honesty. You can't tell lies.
Right? Yeah. Even like the most subtle, he's not telling the truth because it's not really a lie, but he's that underline of like, I'm still going to be kind of honest about this. Yes, it is changing for the better. In the back of his mind, I'm thinking like, yeah, we're going to brutally murder all of you loyalists and we're going to take the fight to the Emperor. So yeah, it is going to change for the better. I think it's better. I'm going to enjoy it.
Good old Karn.
Yeah.
Always on the up and up.
I just listened to a little bit of a quote from him talking about his Legion, his Primarch, and that little death clock counter that he has inside of his helmet. Oh, it was so cool.
I mean, even at this point, Angron is still, he's not Demon Angron at this point. But I'm pretty sure he is somewhat light on details. They don't really include Angron in the tactical assessments or a lot of the decision making, because I think is also known for just kind of mouthing off and saying things.
Well, even when he walks into the room, what did they call it? They renamed this area the Lupercal's Court, which originally the room was used as the not invocation, just the council room. Now it's his courtroom, and he sits upon a throne now, where everyone pays him homage.
Well,
and
they've also decorated the whole thing too. There's like
yes, they did.
There's like
Gavio
wolf
Loken
pelts
that
hanging too. And like braziers hanging from the ceiling. It's very dark in there.
Not only that, Loken points out something as he enters the room. He sees banners of the Legion, but he also sees other banners that he doesn't recognize. And there's two that he mentions in particular. One is a black star with 8 points on it on a golden background, which he didn't quite recognize. And there was another one that he saw, which was a throne of skulls atop a river of blood in a citadel of brass. And it gave him uneasy feelings, but he marked it out as that maybe these are just symbols of different lodges. We know what those are. I know exactly who those are. Oh, buddy. So Angron walks in too, and I think you're right. He's not very privy to what exactly is going to happen, because he even makes the comment to Horus like, "Oh, I enter this room and it is like you are a lord and I am your servant. Is that how this is going to be now? Look at you sitting in the throne. Look, king in the castle, king in the castle. Look at me, king in the castle." In a more funnier way of saying it, but he does take he gets a little like riled up just for the fact that Horus has summoned him to a room where he is prostrating himself as a lord in a throne over everybody else, and we know how Angron feels about that.
Well, and I think Mortarion has a few issues with it. I don't know if it's necessarily mentioned in this book, but he does talk about it, that, it might be later on. That
it is later
the
on.
whole point of the rebellion was to have no more emperors, and then Horus, almost from the beginning, is like, no, I'm clearly still the emperor.
Yeah,
I am just a new and different, better emperor.
Yeah, he does make that. He does make that comment later on. Not in this one, because right now, Mortarion is very much working with Horus to make sure things happen the way they are, because Fulgrim is not there. Lord Eidolon walks in as Fulgrim's representative. So we have three Primarchs and a Space Marine captain. Well, Lord Commander, I guess. Lord Punk is more like it.
I mean, the Emperor's Children at this point have one of the most esoteric rank structures. Like, they have more officer ranks than any other legion, and more divisions of authority, and
they're very much ridiculous. Like the Dark Angels, where they have like up to like Master, Commander, Grand Master, Lord Master, Supreme Grand Master. It's just like, what? Like, do you guys ever fall over with all those medals on your chest? Like, do you just get like leaned over, like you're in a constant bow all the time?
Oh, well, that would imply that Eidolon ever bent or broke in any way, shape, or form. So
there's only a couple people that he bends or breaks to. Very, very few.
Yeah.
Although he did, Gavio did make note that it seemed like Lord Eidolon's attitude had changed quite a bit since the last conversation with Horus, where I believe Horus admonished him greatly after his last stupid little encounter. Mouthed off a little bit too much.
For a Lord Commander who's supposed to be the best of the best, and he does, he is very, skilled, but tactically he makes a lot of very bad choices.
But that's okay. Like, he steals all the good ideas from everybody else, so he still looks good.
Yeah, but his natural inclination is usually towards not the best choices.
Yeah. So we have all these individuals in this room together, and the focus is Istvan with this video that's played on the monitor screens. And that's when Horus announces that the spear tips will be going down to the planet.
And we have Tarek Torgatin's company. Garvio Loken.
Yep.
Saul Tarvitz.
Yep.
And Captain Lucius.
Yep. All going down. They're all just so happening to go down to the planet. And I believe there is a comment later on that even Gaviel makes when talking to what was his name? The half-herd.
Iacton Kurz?
Yeah, Iacton Kurz. He makes a comment like, it's weird that there are these specific companies going down to the planet, because usually in this kind of engagement with these many Primarchs and these many legions, you'd expect like only the best captains to be going down. Yet they're not sending the best captains. It almost seems like a random bunch of different ones that, well, we know as the readers, a lot of these captains and their companies are very loyal to Terra. Whereas the others are showing a loyalty to the War Master. As we've seen, there is a complete divide now within the Legion. Those who are loyal to Horus and his cause, and those who are leaning more towards the Terra, the Emperor, and the ideals of the Imperium.
Well, even we talked about this in the episode about Rylanor, because really the story of Rylanor happens amongst this book.
Yes.
But Saul Tarvit's kind of going, wait, why is Eidolon not like leading the charge? Because that's kind of his thing. So there's already kind of that like, something's not quite right, and Saul works with Rylanor to get himself off of the first wave, because there's supposed to be sort of waves. So the fact that these 4 are the spear tip, that doesn't mean there's no other members of any of the other legions coming down.
I think it may have been the second wave, because if I remember correctly, Eidolon did go down in one wave, because Eidolon was the one that used his sonic blast to destroy the one of the war singers, which blew. Yeah. So he went down in the first wave, and they cracked the main citadel of the planet, because they were the first ones to strike. They killed the war singer. They killed the leader of that exact engagement, and that's when Nathaniel Garrow actually gets his leg blown off by one of those sonic screams of the war singer. It's also the first time, and I don't think Soul Tarvis is there yet, but this is the first time we actually see maybe not a chaos corruption, but the first augmentations of the Emperor's children.
No, Soul Tarvis is there because he asks Eidolon afterwards about it.
Okay,
and he gets introduced to Fabius.
Fabius Bowther, our favorite person.
Well, and that's I think that's also where we found out that Fabius was somewhat the one marking out who was loyal to Fulgrim and who was loyal to the Emperor. Because after Eidolon uses the like sonic scream, the precursor to a doom siren, effectively.
In my opinion, one of the coolest doom sirens ever, just being able to yell.
He goes down to Fabius Biles' apothecarian, and Biles shows Saul Tarvitz all these like augmentations he's done on the Legion, and he's like, "Do you want one?" And Tarvitz is like disgusted and like, the Emperor made us perfect. Why do you think you can like change us? Why do you think you can augment us? Like, this is a dangerous road you're going down.
This is like borderline heresy what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, they don't use actually, I don't think they use terms like heresy during the Horus Heresy because they're not religious.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, they don't understand the idea of, like, to them, someone turning against the Emperor, especially a Marine, let alone a Primarch, is anathema. It doesn't exist. Like, that would never happen. Like, what, you're talking crazy. Heresy is something that doesn't cross their mind yet.
But yeah, I think that's the tipping point, where, it must be a second wave they do on his fan through. I read the book a long time ago.
There's a main
Tarvitz
push.
has time to like go back and forth here.
Yeah, there's a main push on the capital of the world where they have to take the main. I think it's like a palace or a basilica.
Yeah.
And they make comments about how it's designed and fashioned. It looks very much like a cathedral with all these pipes and stuff. They crack that thing. They destroy the war singer. I believe they kill the governor of the planet there as well. And then they're all evacuated. And then Horus gets the whole plan. We're going to make one last big onto the planet where they're having this big last hold and wipe them out.
Yeah.
Only specific groups you are going to be going down. And that's when it's like, why is Lord Eidolon not leading this charge? Like, he's in every single charge. He was in the last one.
Yeah.
But he's not in this one.
Well, yeah, I think that's Eidolon's not there. Abaddon's not going down. Abaddon's,
that's another one, yeah.
First company. Like, it's, we're talking,
we're talking captain of pissiness if he doesn't get to go down to the planet first.
Yeah. Like, Typhon's not going down. Karn's not going down. You're like, these are, favored sons of their Primarchs aren't leading this charge. Like, why?
The Primarchs are all here, minus Fulgrim. We're all at this planet. This is a massive, like, commitment to this planet with these many warriors and these many legions. You'd think that all the captains, all of the major number one dudes would be down there, and they're not.
Well, and you'd even like Angron never misses a fight.
Angron's not on the planet. That's saying a lot.
Yeah. So there's definitely
this isn't right.
So, and that's where kind of the whole story of Saul going to Rylanor to get off of the the first drop, which gives him time to somewhat check in on what's going on. Because as everyone else lands on the planet, Tarvitz actually walks around the Vengeful Spirit and he goes to the gun decks and sees them loading Virus Bomb, Life Eater into the guns. Yep. And is like,
so why would you be?
Yeah.
Why would you be using those? those are only used under like so for any of our viewers that don't know what those are, they're only specific people within the legions, within the Imperium, that are allowed to call the use of these weapons. The War Master is one of them. The Life Eater virus is a nuclear warhead that some of the ships carry, and as of right now in the Warhammer universe, there are a few ships that still have these warheads. They're very rare. Inside them, they carry a cocktail. It is a green, brackish liquid, and when it hits the planet and explodes, it's not like a nuclear warhead that goes boom. This stuff explodes from the warhead, and it expands and builds out, and it devours, melts down, and destroys any type of biomass on the planet. So that means clothing, flesh, plants, animals, anything organic. Anything organic, this stuff will annihilate in the span of where this like gunk can spread. Sometimes they'll launch multiple warheads onto planets. While it's devouring and destroying all the biomass, it releases gases into the atmosphere that are extremely combustible. After the time eludes and everything on the planet has been melted down, the ships fire a single spark down to the planet and ignite the entire world, scorching it dry, leaving nothing but a crust left behind. When the Imperium wants to delete a species, they use these things.
Yeah, it's, you know, if you're familiar with the 40k idea of exterminatus, this is when you need to exterminatus something that can fight back.
Yes.
You need to know that it is not only dead, but it can never, ever come back.
There's that phrase I'm sure some people have heard out there where someone goes, "In the name of the God Emperor, our undying Lord, and the grace of the Golden Throne, I sign the death warrant of an entire world and consign 1 billion souls to oblivion." Usually right after that, they press the button and launch those missiles.
Yeah. So yeah, those are being loaded in, and Saul Tarvitz is like, something's bad is happening. Like, the people on the planet need to know.
Yeah. So he jumps inside of the ship.
This one little event is partly what actually triggers Horus not winning the entire war.
Yeah, if this didn't happen, Horus would have won almost immediately. The plan would have succeeded, because if Sol hadn't have seen that, all of the Marines on the planet would have been hit by the virus bomb and wiped out in one shot. No witnesses whatsoever left on the planet. All of the loyalists dealt with. Then all he has to do is bring his brothers to a different location and wipe them out in the exact same way.
Yeah.
But because this happened and word got to the Emperor, the plan
from
had changed
our best friend Nathaniel Garrow.
Yeah. Nathaniel Garrow was actually able to escape on a ship known as the Eisenstein, with messages given to him by Sol Tarvitz, pleading him to run and send message to the Emperor that we are betrayed, we have traitors amongst us, please do not shoot me down, because he's being followed by another ship that is trying to shoot Sol Tarvitz down, ordering the Eisenstein to open fire, open all batteries on this ship, because they are trying to get to the planet and they should not be going there. And he's telling him, you can't shoot me. Do not shoot me down. They are betraying us. They are loading virus bombs. We are betrayed. We need to get the message out. Please help me. So against his better judgment, Nathaniel Garrow fires on the other ship and destroys it. They have a quick conversation, and then later on, that leads into what we've known as the flight of the Eisenstein, where Nathaniel Garrow is now racing to Terra as fast as possible to bring the word to the Emperor that Horus has betrayed us.
Yeah, which is what really tips, all of the loyalist Primarchs into actually having time to prepare.
Yeah. And then that begins the actual 10-year-long civil war across the galaxy.
And this also, Sol Tarvitz getting to the planet also gives the loyalists still on the planet time to escape, because they're dropped in.
Warn them.
Yeah, mid-conflict, and I believe the sons of Horus and the Emperor's children are actually able to escape into the palace. So they are relatively protected, but unfortunately the loyalist world eaters and Death Guard get just ruined.
A lot of them get annihilated. Yes, there's a good amount of them that actually get into the bunkers on the planet before the bombs go off, which is lucky, but their forces are almost cut in half.
Yeah.
Now, after this, after it's all said and done, Horus is furious because they're still alive. There's still loyalists on the planet, which means the plan did not go the way it was supposed to. We need to annihilate them. So they all start to come out of the bunkers and they're all discussing what happened. Horus is going to prepare to fire another volley of these missiles down. And just like in a funny cartoon, it's like, all right, we need to destroy them. We're going to load the missiles, prepare to fire in. Okay, Mortarion, go to this. Where's Angron? Angron is in a drop pod firing as fast as he can to the surface of the planet going
a little bit of foreshadowing from earlier. Yeah, Angron does not like to miss a fight. And
no. And he's actually Angron is upset in the fact that Horus pulled this maneuver. And he also, I think Angron, either it was said or it's kind of monologue later, that he's like, well, if you're not going to get the job done, I'll get the job done my way. So he kind of forces Horus's hand to launch an assault on the planet and engage with the loyalists. Now this is the first confrontation of brother versus brother, killing one another in a civil war, very much reflecting the beginning of the book. And so we made war on our brethren, so lost in ignorance.
Well, and I think one of the things that ends up being kind of funny, the loyalists, not funny, but kind of a funny twist. The loyalists hold.
Yeah, they actually do a pretty decent job.
They don't, they are outnumbered, they are outgunned, but they had time to take back all of the defensive positions.
Yeah, and they can actually use those defensive positions and the weapon batteries on those palaces that they have now to fight back against the traitors coming down to fight them. And they need that since now Angron has landed on the planet. I don't recall if Mortarion gets involved in this fight, but I'm pretty sure just Angron and a lot of the legionaries are now on the planet just wreaking havoc.
Yeah, I think the Primarchs generally send like Abaddon gets sent down, Eidolon gets sent down. They send kind of
Horus, Axeman, all of them.
Yeah, I think Angron is the only Horus. I think we talked about this earlier. Horus very quickly goes from leading the spear tip to very much not risking himself.
Yes.
And this is kind of the first, he does not go down, he does not engage, he hangs back, which, Fulgrim often did. And Mortarion, I think Mortarion is he's actually not, we don't get a lot of perspective on Mortarion in this book.
Yeah. He's being present, quite silent.
Yeah, which is kind of his way.
Well, I think that's because in this book right now, like you said before, later on, he does make comment about Horus and that, he made a promise to us that there weren't going to be more leaders or emperors, yet look at him right now. He's already posing himself as lording over all of us. What I think is through this entire moments, Mortarion is sitting back, being silent, watching and observing everything. He's gathering as much information as he can as well, because this is fairly new to him. Yes, he is turning traitor against the Emperor, but the devil and the devil and the devil you don't. I think he's observing and watching, and that's why he gets that judgment later on to realize that maybe I sided with someone that's no better than my father.
Well, and we sort of, it gets revealed more as you go through the heresy. But Mortarion was very much an outsider amongst the Primarchs.
Absolutely.
So I think that's also partly why he hangs back, and he just kind of wants to see how things unfold, because Fulgrim and Horus are very close. Angron doesn't.
Like Nurgle. It's very patient of Mortarion, like Nurgle.
But Angron nobody really knows Angron that well, and Angron doesn't talk to anyone because he's so angry. Because of the nails. So Angron just kind of goes off and he doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. But Mortarion does. Mortarion has some similar to Perturabo. He wants to be loved, but often isn't. But yeah, the other irony is all of the loyalist Death Guard that gets sent out, like, this is what they train for. This is their bread and butter. Like, getting absolutely, like, smacked up down and then having to slog through. Like, Death Guard, even before 40k, are disgustingly resilient.
Yeah, they are hard boys.
Yeah, they do not go down easy. And you literally put them in the corner, and that's where they fight best.
Well, just like the World Eaters and the Death Guard had one thing very much in common. They were not mechanized armies. They were a lot of times like soldier foot-driven armies, and slowly, well, World Eaters fast, but they would slog across the battlefield, and you have the World Eaters who are rushing you to destroy you, but like you said, they have that disgusting resilience, that determination, that unbridled push to move forward and face the enemy down, and just have it almost like what's their ability? It's in the game it's called something that really encompasses what they are as not just the Death Guard, but the Death Guard before the Horus Heresy, which was the I can't remember the word. It means to like slowly advance unstoppingly, no matter what happens. They just keep moving forward.
I can't think of what the word is. But yeah. And yeah, they aren't really renowned for bringing vehicles. The World Eaters, I think, they employ a lot of rhinos because they just want to be faster.
But they want to get across as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so they have transports, so they're mechanized in that sense. But there's not a lot of World Eaters like tank commanders.
No, not at all. The Death Guard, you have them like they're walking up the battlefield in lockstep form, weathering through a lot of the shots and just putting down heavy fire. Like it's almost like a relentless assault. They're just slowly slogging forward, and they keep going, keep firing, keeping that bolter discipline on the enemy and not relenting at all.
Yeah, because like the Sons of Horus were actually they used a lot of Land Raiders, because that's kind of their get in fast, but also be able to assault.
A spear.
Yeah. And the Emperor's Children also eschewed a ton. Actually, you know what they did bring a lot of vehicles because it was kind of whatever you were best at using, you were encouraged. So if you were an excellent like tank operator, then you were given a tank. So that's where
you fit into your category, and you kind of just stayed in that category.
Yeah, like that's where like the Sun Killers come from, because the Emperor's Children, I guess, were like, hey, what if an entire squad of las cannons were hauled around with like sniper-like efficiency?
Yeah, sounds lovely.
Like, most heavy support operators are not necessarily concerned with accuracy, and the Emperor's Children are out there just like, hey, there's a weak spot in that tank 2.5 kilometers away. I'll just cut the power conduit, don't worry.
Yeah.
So yeah, there isn't really kind of your front line here is really just like the World Eaters and the Death Guard, though, those that are immovable, and then those that are unstoppable.
Yeah, and that's what you have clashing down there on both sides too, loyalist and traitor. So both sides are pretty much meeting in the middle and hitting a stalemate.
Yeah.
Until
our good friends show up. Our first captains. Our Lord Commanders.
Yes.
Because it's Eidolon who breaks into the palace.
Yep, Eidolon breaks in. But it wasn't... They didn't get in there alone. Someone helped them.
Oh, you're testing my memory now, Jared.
Oh. But he's your favorite.
Oh, yeah, the betrayal.
Yep. The only reason that this scene is very much reminiscent of the Legend of the 300, the Battle of Thermopylae with the Spartans. You have a few warriors against unsurmountable numbers of enemies, yet because they can funnel them into a small area, they're able to hold a location. And one individual betrays them, leading the enemies through a back area. In this instance, it was Lucius.
Yeah.
Lucius, during this engagement, became very jealous about the fact that his friend Sol Tarvitz was taking command and issuing orders to him. And Lucius didn't understand why he should not be in command. He should be the one who's in control. Why am I not the one? Like, I'm just as equal as you. So this jealousy built up inside of him.
Well, we kind of get the in the first book, second book, Eidolon mocks Sol Tarvitz for being a rank and file officer, nothing more.
Yes.
And we actually find out that Sol Tarvitz is like a tactical genius, because he is, outthinking the traders. He is deploying assets exactly where they need to be. He keeps making the best possible decision that minimizes losses while exacting heavy tolls on his opponent, which in a siege like they're facing, that's exactly what you need. So it's really, nobody goes by and is like, hey, Saul, you're in charge of this, right? It's just he keeps doing it.
He falls into this like position very naturally.
Like if you're pure, just like the other captains and officers just start going to him because he keeps being right, and he keeps doing the right thing. And yeah, Lucius can't stand it.
No, he hates it. Because he deep down, Lucius does look at himself as better than Sol. He looks at himself as better than a lot of people, even though his rank doesn't reflect that. He does think very highly of himself.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think in the Legion they would have been equivalent.
Yes, they would have been like at equal level.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Well, Lucius gets jealous enough that he, after killing, I believe his name was Charmosian, the chaplain of the Emperor's Children, he kills him in single combat. But he scoops up Charmosian's helmet, removes the head, and gets the Vox working. And reaches out to Lord Eidolon. They have a brief conversation. A few insults are thrown back and forth, but Lucius does make the comment, what would it take for me to get back in the good graces of the legions? The next thing we see in the book is Sol is running to the back of the palace to check on things, and he finds Lucius surrounded by his dead brethren and sons of Horus that he has killed in this room.
Yeah. Oh.
And this is where it ends. After this, Lord Eidolon breaks through the palace. The former Monoval brothers of Loken have a final showdown with him and Tarek Torgaten. We see Tarek Torgaten, unfortunately in these moments, slain by Horus Aximan, his head cut from his shoulders.
Yeah.
And Gavio Loken is buried under the collapsing weight of the palace.
Well, because Abaddon tries to take out Loken.
He does.
And Loken is very much outmatched against Abaddon.
Yeah, it's there's no competition here. You have a captain in power armor wielding a mastercraft chainsword, by all means, probably one of the greatest chainswords made by the legions at those point in times. But he's fighting a man in heavily set Terminator armor, wielding a power fist and a power sword that is far greater than the weapon that he's holding. It wasn't really much of a competition. And also, that armor augments Abaddon's strength greatly. Even past the point of a Marine, where I believe he even grabs onto Gaviel and starts cracking his knuckles or something with just the weight of his fists. During the fight.
Abaddon had a fractile, like the heaviest Terminator plate that you can have, but it's like a master crafted set, so I don't think it actually slows him down.
No, his wasn't. His was actually a very customized version of the Cataphrye, the Justair and Cataphrye tactical
Fracti,
dreadnought armor. Cataphracti, yeah. He maintenance his own armor himself. So Abaddon's armor, even though it's very much like the Cataphractii armor of the regular Terminators, it's very much closer to the Tartarus pattern Terminator armor that we see in some of the other legions, which, if the Horus Heresy hadn't happened, was going to be the standard issue armor of the legions. The combination of Terminator plate with the mobility of power armor brought from the forges of Mars to the Imperium would have brought the Imperium into a new golden age of like warriors, but we no longer see those, and Tartarus pattern Terminator armor is quite rare. And that's why Abaddon is able to still move so quickly and agilely, and have such agility with this armor on, because he maintains it himself, and he makes all the modifications himself, which even goes to show he has more skills than just war.
Hi, everyone.
Snurgle! Hello!
Hi.
How you doing?
I need the powerful treasure.
You need the powerful charger? I will hand this over.
I hope you guys are all good. I miss you, and I love you. And I'm off to do a photo shoot.
Well, you have a good day with the photo shoot.
Hello. What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about the third book in the Horus Heresy.
Ooh. Yeah, I heard something about Abaddon and his armor. And I gotta go.
Oh, you gotta go?
I would love to stay, but...
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Snurgle.
Miss you!
Miss you! Yes.
So Abaddon and Loken just, Loken actually holds his own relatively well, but once Torgadon goes down to Eidolon, Horus Aximon, there's no hope left, and yeah.
Well, it's like you're in the middle of a battle fighting people that you loved and trusted, and you look over and see the one person out of all of them that was the closest to you, you trust the most, just his head get cut from his shoulders. This broke him.
Yeah.
That, like, seeing him die and this entire thing happening, all of the stuff that's happened up until this point, Loken is now broken. Mentally broken.
And then, the roof comes down on top of them, and Abaddon and Horus, little Horus, dig themselves out, and they don't find a body, though.
No. It's presumed that they're both... Well, we know that Tarek is dead, and it's presumed that Gaviel is also dead after being buried.
It is presumed that, yes.
Yes. Presumed.
And that pretty much, that signals the end for the loyalists. They, I think Eidolon breaks in and starts killing the wounded. Like, the Horus did not want witnesses.
No,
to any of this.
They made sure that there was nobody left on the planet. And unfortunately, though the message still got out, afterwards they have a discussion, and Horus does mention that we will set a trap for the rest of our brothers on Istvan 5, which is where... I don't think there's a book out there that actually describes the full events besides little bits and pieces of it. But
Fulgrim has it.
Fulgrim has it? I do remember that, but I don't think it's like the entire battle in the great detail, is it?
Well, the battle stretches years. Istvan 5, because there is books that do, because Vulcan, Korax,
so
they get stuck on there. They get
those
stuck
ones
there
I
for a
actually
while.
haven't read. I haven't read those for a while. I haven't read those ones yet, so I definitely have to catch up on them.
But Fulgrim. The back half of that book has the initial
starting,
the start, and kind of the big battle that then turns into like this guerrilla skirmish afterwards.
Yeah, it gets really bad. What we are talking about out there to all of our viewers is this is where what is known as the Drop Site Massacre happens on Istvan 5.
And that's what's described in Fulgrim, is the Drop Site Massacre, which is where the majority of them die.
It's the most, like, if this book was the Slobber Knocker, this is the Red Wedding of 40K.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's bad. It's sad. It's horrible.
Well, I think you have like thousands of Marines dying by the minute during the massacre.
and then they all think that they're going to get reinforced by these other legions that are coming down, and they run back to their post to get them help, and the others
Well,
just level their...
you don't ruin it for.
Oh, sorry.
Wait till we get to that book.
Sorry, it's such a good one.
Oh,
Right.
It is a good one. Yeah, but we won't say who or what happens there. We'll
Yes.
leave that as for another day.
Yeah.
But no, this one, a lot happens. It's a lot of fights. It's a lot of battles.
Yeah.
And it is the culmination of that the fall of Horus. And
The final
it is
nail in the coffin that like says, "We are turning against the Imperium, and I will cut down the Emperor." This
and you
is
really
that moment.
I said it before, but this is a weighty book. A lot of heft and just like the sheer scale of the battle that unfolds on Isfahan 3 is, written quite well, actually, as far as actually conveying the heaviness of it. Marines fighting Marines, bolters against armor. Like, this is not a they drop in and they just win the day, which is what a lot of the battles up to this point have been described as. This is long, day in, day out fighting that they have to go through, and it's the first time Marines have fought each other, and it's really it really sets the whole tone of the heresy. There's a lot of battles that happen throughout the whole Horus Heresy, but this is the first one where you go, oh, this is going to be bad. Like, I remember reading through it and kind of getting that oh, this is not good. This is not good.
Yeah, the whole time you're just like, this is there any... Nope, there's no hope. It's getting worse. Oh, maybe there's... No, it's getting
They
worse.
tease you, though. The loyalists holding, you're like, oh, maybe.
Yep, those little moments. Like, you know what's going to happen. We're all living in the 40k universe in the game now, and we know what the end result is, but you're always hoping that maybe something happened or something changed that twisted it in a different way. No. You can hope and pray all you want, but they die.
Yeah, pretty brutally.
A lot of these characters that we, like, especially myself, I grew to love and care about in a very short amount of time of reading this books just get wiped from existence in seconds. And it was like, when I first read it, I actually did cry a little bit when Soul Tarbets and the rest of them got just annihilated. I was like, Loken, I was so heartbroken when Loken died. I didn't know what to do. It's like this main character that I've been invested in for like months is now just gone.
Well, and Saul dying, I think, really, you see the light of the Legion get snuffed out. Like, Loken and Saul are very much.
They're the last beacons of what the true meaning of their legions were.
Yeah.
And just to see
I think that kind of shows the traitors are diminished by losing that, because a small group of loyalists is able to hold them back, and it really shows that they were exemplars of what they believed in, and they were themselves at their best, and the heresy was only going to bring out the worst in a lot of these characters.
Yep, a lot of individuals fighting for themselves and their own ambitions doesn't always work the greatest together when a bunch of individuals all bound by the same ideals and the same goals can accomplish so much more.
Yeah.
Ergo, the Battle of Thermopylae. It's a very good indication that you have one army who's from different cultures and races across the world who all fought and did very different things, who didn't have a cohesive way of doing it, versus a small group of 300 men who were trained all the same way and trained to protect each other, fight in a certain way, and work in a cohesive unit. Were able to hold for, I can't recall how, I think it was 5 days. They held 5 days before they were finally taken.
Well, and it was a similar, honestly, the Battle of Thermopylae is very clearly what Isfahan 3 is meant to represent, because it is
very.
They are trying to tie up Horus so word can get out.
Yeah.
Because that's the other side of it. Salt Harvest also brings word that, Nathaniel Garrow is rushing to Terra. So they know that the longer they hold, the more Horus can't maneuver away from this. Because the only hope they have is they know they're going to die.
Yeah.
But if the Imperium can come and just smack down Horus, then...
That's the hardest part, is that they do know they are going to die. They have accepted and they're consigned to their death, that they know that they will die by the hands of the traitors and the War Master. But the only saving grace is that if we can hold long enough for word to get to Terra, our deaths will mean something.
Yeah.
We won't just be like endless lost voices in the void. We will save thousands potentially.
Yeah. So no, it's a good one. It is definitely bolter porn. So if you are someone who you know what though, I will say if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like that element of some of the Warhammer novels, this one at least has some heft to the characters that it's worth kind of slogging through if you don't love it, because there is just some like absolutely great moments, and there is at least a point to it. Sometimes 40k novels get, slogged down in battles. These are all very impactful. You have characters that you've grown to love. You've got characters that you've grown to hate fighting each other. You've got characters that you've grown to love, twisting and turning and, revealing new things. So amongst all of this, carnage, there's a lot going on. And we didn't even really talk about, there's a whole other kind of B story throughout this about what happens to the Remembrancers, which for many of them ends in a lot of violence. Most of the Remembrancers are
Murdered.
Gathered together and just cut down.
Yep, because we can't have you saying anything about what happens here. We're going to write our own history.
But yeah, on the good old Eisenstein, some of our Kirill Cinderman, Euphrates Keeler, Escape, and a few others.
Eventually, we'll get to a book series that I would like most of our viewers to remember the name Kirill Cinderman.
Well, and Euphrates Keeler has a whole, we'll say it's a whole Saint Celestine moment. Yeah.
Good old Celestine.
Yeah. So no, it's an excellent book, and there's a lot. What's your rating? What are you going to give it?
Oh, this is a 10 bolter rounds out of 10 bolter rounds for this one. This book, like when I think of bolter porn, it's the sad moments of brotherhood and honor that make me cry. This book probably had me crying more than a lot of other books that I've read. And I haven't read very many until I got into the Warhammer series. It's sad. It's very sad.
It is sad.
Like laying down your life to save others and keep others from having to do the dark deeds that you have to do. There's a phrase in Warhammer that just stands out for me, is that if you see yourself as a hero or a demigod, and you like the idea, in this world you are beset on all sides by dark things that want to destroy and take everything that you have, while you try to grasp victory from the darkness and rail against the dying light. These stories, they really touch me in a way that I don't know why I have such a reaction, but I find them to be very emotional when I read them. Especially these ideas of brotherhood, honor, sacrifice, the ideal of looking at yourself as being greater, everything else is greater than yourself, and being willing to make the ultimate sacrifice so that others can prosper and survive. It's a really sad, dark universe, but those moments of light in the darkness, where you can grab those moments of victory, they mean so much more. And to me, those are very emotional moments. Very, very strong emotional moments.
I think the there's a lot of moral grayness in Warhammer. We've talked about it in several episodes at this point, but there are no good guys. Because realistically, like even in this situation, like the loyalists are fighting for a tyrannical or authoritarian government. Like it's not clear cut as to who is good and who is right and who is wrong in a lot of Warhammer. But to just see like the loyalists on Isfahan 3, they have an ideal. They believe that the Imperium can be something better for humanity in a violent and uncaring universe, and that it's worth protecting and it's worth standing up for. And there is a bit of like, they're not fighting for themselves. They have no self-interest in this at this point because they're dead. They're fighting purely so that others might have a chance to avenge them and to uphold something that they believe so strongly in. So it really very much is, it is not so much a fight between who is right and who is wrong, or who is good and who is bad, but just almost a belief in hope, and the hope that tomorrow could be better.
It is what makes the series so great, even the universe, is that the hope, that clinging on to the hope in the darkness is what makes everything so impactful.
And we know it does not get better. It gets so much less better.
It does. So when you do have those moments, they mean so much more. Like I'll burst into tears over a couple of Marines in a small alcove trying to escape from a gene sealer cult, and they're trying to get out, and one of their brothers is down with a giant slash mark in his stomach, and they're like, we need to get through. He stands up, grabs the flamethrower that's leaking, and walks towards the gene sealers and says, I shall light the way for you, brothers, and it shall be lit by fire. And he just unloads the flamethrower amongst the gene sealers, walking into the conflagration of flame, exploding amongst them and destroying it. And something like that sacrifice to make sure that his brothers can survive in that moment of honor, it's just it's a small one, but it means a lot.
So yeah, I think this one very excellent. I'm gonna give it 10 revving chainswords out of 10.
Nice.
Because I think this is really this culminates the trilogy. It very much is the return of the king, as far as kind of it is the big finale. Because after this, things slow down a bit.
It does.
Flight of the Eisenstein is a little slower, and this is also where you start to. The next two books sort of finish the story of kind of the start.
And
then after that, it breaks apart.
Yeah, because then now we're having a massive civil war that spans over several years and across the galaxy with multiple skirmishes everywhere. So it's kind of like a game of roulette dealer's choice which book you pick up after that. Because
no, you read them in order, Jarrett.
No, you don't read them in order. You do it randomly and get surprised when you learn things, and then go back and look at this other book and read this book and see that this person did this and this guy's alive and this thing happened here, and you got to make all the connections.
Read them in order. That way it feels good on your autism. It really is. There's a lot of good stuff in this book. And yeah, it really ties it all together. And from the very beginning of Horus Rising to the end of Galaxy in Flames, you very quickly see the fall of Horus happen, and just the way he changes, and how he goes from, again, a pinnacle of himself to a depraved idea of what he can be. And it's a cool kind of back and forth, and
a wonderful leader, a loving father, a caring individual of those below him, one that is able to bow and show humility to those that are technically beneath him, but treats them as equals, and one who is beloved by all no matter what, almost as much, if not as much, as the Emperor, degrades, falls, and transforms into an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And this is just the early stages. He is still the War Master. He is still that same leader, but he is making different choices, and he is slowly turning into the beast that we will see at the end of this series.
Yeah. So no, if you're going to read any Warhammer books, these first 3 are 100% worth finding, and I think you can even get them as like an omnibus now.
Yep,
like
you
it's
can get
pretty
them all
easy
together.
to get the 3 of them.
I highly suggest reading all 3 of them before moving on to any other book in the series.
Well, and even if it's just you've never read any Warhammer books, these are 3 great ones to kind of I would also say they're all 3 of them are very good at being approachable. None of them assume you know what's going on. They don't tell you everything, but there's not a bar of presumption of, oh, you know what an Emperor's Children is. You know what, the Death Guard are. You know who Mortarion. None of that. It's very much everyone is built from scratch. And I think that's what, in Horus Rising, Dan Abnett does a good job of building up what a Marine is and what, the lay of the land is. And then through False Gods, we kind of get what Chaos is. And then in this, we get what the Horus Heresy is going to be.
Yeah. And then after that, it's, I still say dealer's choice, but it's a lot of dramatic changes and shifts, and a lot of stuff comes out in the rest of the series.
I would say you definitely need to at least read Fulgrim, because Fulgrim impacts like 7 legions.
Yes.
And, if you want to know, like, I'm trying to think who's all there. The 4 that are in this book, and then the Raven Guard, the Salamanders, and the Night Lords are there.
Yes. Personally, I'm looking forward to when we get around to reading my 2 favorite books, which is Betrayer and The Long Forgotten Empire. Both amazing stories.
Yes. But I think we'll go back to maybe some more freeform episodes after this. We won't. We're not going to do the Horus Heresy in order.
No. We're going to take a break, relax a little bit, recharge, maybe read some more books, maybe let the fans decide what. Maybe I don't know, but we'll talk about some other stuff.
I mean, if we're going to do I would also love to do some Kaiva's Kane.
I'm down with that.
Personally,
I kind of like the idea of the fans choosing what we read.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I've read a lot of the Horus Heresy, but there's also just as many of those and other books that I have not read. So for me, that would be really cool to pick up a book that I've never read, read it, and come and be like, you have no idea.
Well, maybe we'll put that up on a poll in the Discord and on the Patreon.
Yep. Make your votes,
people. Can comment. Maybe I'll even make it the question on Spotify as well. What book do you want us to try next? And yeah, we can't promise it'll be immediate because we'll both have to read it if we haven't read it before. But yeah, I would also love that because I think people keep recommending books, and then I need some time to get through them. But
I'm interested to see what they want. I am very 100% what the public wants. What do you want to hear from us?
Even some of the the Indominus stuff, I haven't read any of those books.
I've read a couple. I don't mind them. I've read some of the short stories and listened to some of the audio dramas. It's actually not bad. I like it. It's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, and there's a lot of just niche stuff out there that I think the stuff about Trazen and Fabius Bile, there's a whole series.
The Primogenitor series. I'm even down with audio dramas too. Like Chosen of Corn, Perfection is a great one. A Labyrinth of Sorrows, I love that one. That's all about the Raven Guard and the Brazen Minotaurs. Well, I'm a Taurus, so I'm down with anything Minotaur or Bull-esque, which is really cool. But yeah, let us know what you want. We'd love to hear about it.
Absolutely. And on that note, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided wherever you're listening from. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K. If you're a fan of us and want to join our growing Wholesome Hammer community, get in on the Discord, get on the Patreon. You can find it patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K, and help support the show. If you'd like to connect with us directly, we are at Team BloodGod, at Nurgle_Snurgle, and at Blushing Noise Marine on Instagram and YouTube. And until next time, bye-bye.
Eidolon, hit the jazz music.